If you're over-delivering, undercharging, or working harder than ever without seeing enough profit, listen up. You deserve real profit in your business, and 2026 is the year to work differently. I'm inviting you to my Profitable Business Workshop on Wednesday, the 28th of January, where I'll show you how to stop guessing with your money and start making smarter, more profitable decisions. Tickets are valued at $470, but you can join right now for free. Head over to profitablebusinessworkshop.com. That's profitablebusinessworkshop.com. Hey there, welcome to the Her Business podcast. I'm Susie Daphnis. I'm your host and I'm the CEO at Her Business. I have been working with women and mentoring them for many, many years now. And I don't think I've ever met a woman business owner who didn't love what she did, at least most of the time, who wasn't passionate about the work she was doing. And most often, these women really know the ins and outs of their industry. They have the knowledge and they have the expertise to create a phenomenally successful business. But not all those women actually become successful at the level that they want to. So why is that? Because you can know your stuff, you can be an expert at your craft, you can offer so much value in your products and services, but still not see the success that you want or make the impact that you truly desire. Now, it could be that your offer is part of it, but often it's not that. Because it doesn't matter how good you are if you don't know how to clearly present that goodness to others. It doesn't matter how detailed and valuable your work is if you don't know how to share what you do with confidence, with clarity, and with presence. And that's what we're talking about in today's episode. How to make your message land, truly land, with the people that you're speaking to, so that you can show up confidently and authentically. And we're talking about how to create a real sense of presence. That is a skill that doesn't come naturally for a lot of business owners. Most of us, we know our stuff. It's the sharing it in a clear, confident way that can be the real challenge. So I've brought in an expert on voice, on presence, on presentation. Her name is Anne-Marie Wilshire. She's the founder of Vibrant Voices, and she helps women rediscover their unique voices and claim their presence and their power so that they establish trust and impact when it matters most. She's been a member of Her Business for many, many years. She's someone I have worked with personally, and I cannot wait for you to hear what she has to share. And I can guarantee that by the end of this episode, you will have some great strategies to step into the next presentation you're going to give, or the webinar, or the keynote, or the one-on-one meeting, or the proposal presentation, or even that Instagram reel. And to be able to step into that with confidence and presence, and I'm emphasizing the word presence, that feels authentic to you. So let's get into it. Hey, Anne-Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Susie. It is such a joy to be with you and talking about this today. Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And I know that we caught up a couple of months ago, casually, with some of the members, and we were talking about how important this conversation is going to be to so many women who want to reach more people, get new clients, and present themselves and show up, be more visible this year. So I'm very excited. So may I dive in?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay. So your work focuses on a lot of things, but presence is a key thing. So what does presence mean when we're talking about a business context? And why do you feel it's so critical for women business owners to want to stand out, to feel more confident being heard?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Susie. And I think presence is something that people don't automatically put in their toolkit to consider before they're speaking up in any event. In a business context, I believe that presence is an active state. It's a choice for us to be fully engaged while we're communicating. For most of us, we spend our time either behind the moment, caught in our own thoughts, or ahead of it, pushing and striving. And presence is, as we know, about being here now. But we can see presence in action through how we use our voice, move our body, how clear our intention is, and how willing we are to really be there and connect with the people, to listen to what's happening around us when we're speaking. When we're present, our voice tends to flow more smoothly, we're grounded, we're available in the moment, And that's the difference between delivering information and creating impact. Where it becomes really interesting is for women business owners in particular, presence is critical because we are our brand in motion. We are the embodiment of our brand. So the way we speak and articulate our message, how we connect with people, is the tone of our work. It's through our presence that people feel what it would be like to work with us. And that's what builds the trust, the authority and connection.
I love all that. And I felt myself becoming more and more present as you were speaking. And
Oh, gorgeous.
And a really busy week this week. I realised how much I sometimes operate out of just not being present, just sort of, I don't know what the alternative state is, how to describe it. But
disconnection.
Just by what I need to do next. Disconnection could be another thing. It's difficult when what you want to be is connecting with your ideas, with your intuition, etc. So many of the women, especially the women in Her Business community, they look for and hopefully find their voice in webinars. That's how they're wanting to connect, in content that they want to create. Like they want to have a podcast or do social posts or whatever it is, do a great presentation. But all that can feel intimidating. Being present can be intimidating. So what do you see is going on inside? What are some of those big internal barriers that women are facing in those situations? And how do they even just start to overcome them?
Yeah, look, this is so juicy. I'll go with 3 that I see a lot. And the first of these is the inner judge, not surprisingly. And I had one client who described it perfectly. She said, there's this inner judge running in my background, and it's silently assessing and correcting me and second-guessing me. And the moment that happens, I feel like my voice constricts, my breathing gets tight, and I disconnect, like we were just saying. So what's so striking is how physical that experience is. The moment the inner judge takes over, presence drops. Not because the woman lacks capability, but because she's no longer fully with herself.
Right.
The second one I often see is old belief systems about being appropriate. Another client shared with me, I know you love this one. And I know exactly, she says, I know exactly what I want to say, but I soften it. I talk around the point. I don't want to sound too strong, too certain, too much. And even though I'm clear inside, my ideas come out diluted. And so painful for women when they feel this. And it's so common. These old belief systems about being appropriate show up while we're speaking and shape our language, our tone, and our impact. And the third one is the professional masks. I've got a favourite. One of my clients describes, she said, I realised that I have this smile that I call the smiling assassin. And even when I'm saying something that needs gravity or compassion, I get stuck in this rigid professional smile. And it looks polished, but it creates distance. And the moment I drop the mask, my expression matches the message. The room relaxes, I relax, and that's when I connect.
Oh, I love all those 3. Would you just say them again very quickly for me?
Yes. The inner judge.
Yep, got it.
The old belief systems about being appropriate.
Yes.
And the professional masks that we put on. And all of these, what they have in common is not a lack of confidence or skill, but that they slip out of being present in the moment when those things come up.
I was looking at my Instagram in bed last night, as I sometimes do. Probably not the best thing to do before wanting a good night's sleep. And there's a woman I follow. She's actually an astrologer, and she is so inappropriate in her language, but she is so popular because she almost disarms you with her, with how inappropriate she is. And I absolutely love her because I think she accesses that part of me that sometimes feels like I need to be appropriate for my audience, for my experience, for the altitude at which I want to be held, etc. So I totally associate with that. I associate with the professional mask, and I know that there is such a fine balance in finding that. How do I
absolutely
really, show all of me, but not feel so vulnerable that I have to put up that mask? And the inner judge, hello, old friend.
Yeah, exactly.
We know that one.
Absolutely.
They're great. So the second part of the question I had was, was how do they begin to overcome them? And is it recognizing what you've just said? I mean, I feel like just recognizing what you've just said is there enough, but is there anything else?
Yeah. Look, I think as we continue talking, I can give some suggestions about how we can do that. Yeah, because let's keep going, and we can come into some kind of meaty kind of how-tos as we go along.
All right, great. So this listener is a well-planned guest who is working alongside me to make sure that we're delivering everything that we think you'll really value. So let's press on. So you have a program. It's called the Presence Lab, very appropriately named for what we're talking about, and it helps people deliver and design content with, you say, confidence and connection. What's a blind spot that you notice entrepreneurs have when they're preparing presentations, something this program helps them with, or any sort of public content? And some of it I think relates back to what you said, but what is the blind spot? What is it that we don't even know is happening when we're preparing those things?
I think one of the biggest blind spots, and ironically, we don't know it's happening. Most people aren't aware. But it's that people prepare their content on a page instead of practicing it in their body, speaking out loud. So they spend hours on slides and scripts, but almost no time practicing out loud, unless they're one of my clients. And we prepare by writing, but speaking is actually a completely different skill because we don't speak the way we write. I had a client say to me recently, I know my subject inside out, but I tend to cram so much content in that I end up sounding like I'm reading a spreadsheet or that I'm a data robot. And I feel like there's no space or flow for people to really get my message. It's hard to connect. And I do think that's so. We're so worried about leaving out that bit or that bit. And I've got to be careful with that too. And the fact is the audience then has no time to integrate what we're saying, to make it their own. And even strong ideas don't land when we do that. But practicing out loud is where the magic happens, because that's when our intention, our conviction, our warmth can start to find their way through and resonate in our voice and our gestures. That's when our content comes alive and becomes really impactful and memorable.
I'm thinking about practicing out loud, and I'm thinking of the presentations that I've seen where people really think it's about their content, and they really think it's the more I give them, the more valuable my presentation will be.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, it's not that at all. It's not about cramming every last thing.
But boy, it's hard to follow that rule.
Yeah.
Because we just want to give so much. Yeah. And often, we think it's the joy is in the detail. And yet I come back to something that I think you've often said as well, is that people buy us. It's having enough breathing space to really connect and feel like they know who we are. They'll come for the data later.
Yes.
But, we've got to constantly remind ourselves about that.
Yeah, I love it. So let's stay on this thread of presenting and getting our message out there. We know many women in this situation. Imagine a woman who is great at what she does, top of her game, but when she presents, she just can't get her message to land. Now, one of it could be that she's trying to cram too much, and, that could be it. But are there some simple tweaks that you could recommend that would help her take her content, have it transform to something that actually connects deeply with her audience?
Such beautiful questions, Susie. Thank you. Okay, 3 tweaks. 1, anchor a one clear intention. I always get my clients to ask before we do anything else, what do I want my audience to feel, do, or think differently as a result of listening to me? And what happens with that is that intention sets the tone and the energy for the message. But further than that, it also sets our tone for the state that we need to be in to really connect. It's through that this intention that our whole presentation, webinar or meeting stays aligned. The second thing is speak in chunks rather than paragraphs. So one idea, pause, let it land. When you know your chunks, it's also much easier to stay on track, not waffle, and not be having a lot of filler words like ums and ahs. Number 3, play around with your pace and your rhythm. So slow down on your keywords or phrases. Pause after important ideas. So I don't believe in you need to talk faster, you need to talk slower. It's actually about that rhythm and that variety so that we can highlight, shine a light on what we want to be remembered. Because confidence is often felt through pace. We want to leave enough room for people to really take it in. If you look at, great artists or celebrities and you watch them speaking, I mean, it's amazing to watch how they own it. And they pause for a lot longer than we think is actually appropriate. But we're hanging on that pause because it's imbued with intention.
So the 3 things we mentioned was having the one intention, chunks versus paragraphs, which I want to come back to quickly, and our pace. So would you just give us a couple of distinctions on what is a chunk?
Yes. So
versus a paragraph?
Yeah, versus a paragraph. So,
that was a paragraph. Was that the word you said? No.
Yes, paragraph, yeah.
It was.
So
you did.
I think it comes down to knowing what the kernel is that you want to say. And I always say have it clear for each piece that you're working with, so each topic, let's say, you have what you want to really land, and then you might have 3 points underneath that build to what you want to land. So each of those would be a chunk. But a little bit like a Fibonacci, it's also within a sentence. Some of what you say will be flowing towards a key point. So it's starting to be mindful of and this works when you have a piece that is a set piece or material that you might regularly use, where you can go, okay, this bit they really need to get. This is more conversational and loose, but when I get to this bit, I need to slow down and highlight it.
I love the intentionality, with how you approach these sorts of presentations. Because if we're going to take the time, if we're going to take their time, then we may as well, 1, make it land, but 2, also really connect with them. And the Presence Lab helps people like me, business owners, people who do presentations, what we're talking about, infuse their message with passion, with conviction, and with authenticity, which I think is the most important thing.
Amen.
How do you support someone to find what I'll just call it their unique voice?
Yeah. And I believe that what we're really doing is rediscovering their unique voice. Because to me, authenticity isn't about adding something new or, like you said earlier, Susie, being raw and revealing everything. It's actually about alignment. It's the alignment between what we think, what we feel, what we believe, and how we express these thoughts in our message through our body and our voice. So many women say to me a lot, I know my stuff. I'm comfortable speaking, but I know I'm capable of more impact and connection, and I just can't quite put my finger on what's missing. And it's because we can't step outside our own epistemology. We can't step beyond what we know of ourselves and how the habits that we've got around that. Often what's missing is that they've left part of themselves behind. And they'll say, I've tried modelling other people, I've watched people presenting, I've done a presentation training, but nothing seems to be really congruently me. And when I watch a woman present, and I get passionate about this, I see how subtly she can be deflecting her magic, either by overcompensating and by being big and dynamic in a way that isn't congruent, or she's burying her passion or playfulness behind data and being professional. And I believe the work is about us giving ourselves permission to colour outside the lines, to take a risk. And many women feel like they're already taking up a lot of space when in fact they're only halfway there, you know?
Yeah.
And there's not an opportunity to practice this when we are out there in front of clients. You know, that it's way too scary. And the Presence Lab is about creating this think tank, this play space where we go, be bigger. What happens if you do this? Do a somersault, you know, go slow, go really serene. How did that feel? And get feedback until they find the colour, the shape of how it feels in their body when they're in their particular quality of authenticity. And it's giving them permission and giving yourself permission to play with things, the what ifs. Because, you know, it's after many years of working in this field, I've developed what I call my powerful presence framework. And it's a set of core pillars that are central to developing this authentic presence. And I work in partnership with each client to explore these pillars, their voice, the movement, the message, the mindset, the authenticity, till they identify the unique quality that makes their presence powerful. And to find not only words to articulate it, but also a map, an inner map of how they know when they're there and how to find their way back when they lose it, because we all do. Someone in the audience throws us a curveball, or we haven't had enough time to prepare and we're suddenly on camera. You know, how do we bring ourselves back in the moment? That means it has to be embodied. So together we identify their personal strategy for accessing that state of alignment, and then we practice it until it becomes the new normal. And that's what we all need to do, to practice it until it's reliable, that we can drop into it when we need it the most, especially in the high-stakes moments.
Yes, in high-stakes moments, but just living a life where you are there and present and authentically yourself, and when you communicate, it lands. These are what a gift. What a gift, Anne-Marie.
Thanks, Susie.
Now, I know that it's certainly true for the women that I work with and have worked with over many, many years. Often we feel like it has to be perfect before our content goes out there, and we don't put it out because we're not 100% confident in either what it is that we want to say or the way that we're going to say it. So if we kind of wait. We kind of wait to be confident rather than going, okay, I'm just going to do it, and if it lands, it lands, and if it doesn't, I won't die. What advice would you, which can feel that it's scary, what advice would you give women who are waiting for confidence?
Oh, mine is such a big one. I think people say confidence every time I speak to a potential client. Or what would you like? More confidence, more confidence. And in my experience, confidence does not come before action. It comes because of action. It is a byproduct of repetition. So women often tell me they feel confident once it's familiar. They know the material, they know the audience, they know what they're doing, and they're like, but I can't be confident till I get to that. But we don't need to wait. And it's just kind of a real 180 in our mindsets, I believe, for many people. And that is, we can identify our confident state outside our content. We can identify how we move, how we speak when we're confident, how we think when we're really connected. And we can practice that until that new normal is something we can then practice our content in. Because confidence builds through using it, not through perfection. But again, we need to keep reminding ourselves about this.
Yeah, that makes sense. If I think about, I had an events business for 13 years, as you know, I don't need to feel more confident about running events because it's just it's just the default position is I know how to run an event, and each of us has our expertise in whatever it is we do, whether you're a clinician or whether you're an artist, etc. This is around having a new normal around how you do some of these other things that as business owners we're expected to do or that we want to do because we know it's going to bring in more clients or have us reach more people. And some of those methods that we're using these days, of course, as you know, are masterclasses and webinars and keynote presentations or, Instagram reels. And preparing for those, I know the preparation is going to be slightly different if I'm giving a keynote address than if I'm doing, a 1-minute reel. But if we just talk about preparation, so we've already said we want to practice. We don't just want to write this, make the pretty slides, write the script, and then get up on the day and point our clicker to advance the slide to the next bullet, right? We don't want to do that. But in preparation, what are we not doing? What mistakes are we making as far as how we prepare, whether it's for a short form or a long form piece of communication?
Yeah, I think the most common mistake I see is, as it's kind of a theme that we're running through at the moment, is that over-preparing the content and under-preparing our state. So they spend time, as you say, on the slides and the structure and the data, but very little time preparing their emotional and their physiological state, both before they begin and so they can come back to it while they're speaking. So half of our effective communication, half of it is content and data. But the other half, and people forget this all the time, is the process of how we connect with people's beliefs, thoughts and feelings and their emotional state. And to do that, we need to be grounded and clear enough to notice what's going on in the room and be able to respond to it in real time. So for that to happen, we actually need to be preparing ourselves to be able to flex in whatever direction is required. And that, of course, is the definition of a master, someone that can do all the right things from all the wrong places. So to get that mastery, I work with a woman who was very high energy, very bubbly, very articulate. When she was nervous, she spoke really fast and she had these quick flicking gestures and she tried to carry the room with intensity. But what she didn't realise was that a large part of her audience were more introverted and her nervous energy was too much for them and they just tune out. And for her to be grounded and not try so hard was like as scary as someone who's not used to speaking up suddenly being loud and articulate. And she found as her pace softened and her gestures became clearer, the audience were more engaged, but also her gravitas came up. She actually gave herself the space for all those parts of herself that she was just blah, 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 blah before. So I think a better approach. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah. The great realization.
Yeah, look, I think that how to prepare strategically and somatically is a really good start. 3 things you can do. 1, prepare your opening and your conclusion and make those really proficient and based on how you want people to feel, think and do differently. Secondly, practice landing your key phrases in the car, walking the dog, in the shower, so that those phrases come really lucidly and they flow and they're grounded. And then thirdly, prepare your nervous system as much as your slides. So have a green room warm-up, whether it's in the car or in your studio, that prepares you. And that's when your body, it's like cleaning your teeth before you go to bed. So do a simple voice warm-up. Yay! Open up your voice so it's available and flexible. Nerves put us in sympathetic nervous system, flight, fight, freeze. So use the breath. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 8 to bring yourself back into your parasympathetic nervous system of flow and ease. So when you do that, third thing is bring yourself into the state you want your audience to be in. Have a think about it. Do you want them to be curious, engaged, excited, calm, whatever it is, step up in that state and they will join you.
I wish I had an applause machine. I would just insert here. Little part, poppers, going off on the screen, etc., etc. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful, so powerful. Oh my gosh, I love this conversation, and I know we've talked. We know that there are some technical aspects of speaking and presenting, and you've given us some really great strategies that we can use, and we know that it's also a lot about our emotional way of being, our psychological, what we believe about ourselves. And I love that you give people all the technical side, but you also very much work with who they are as a being and as a spiritual being. Yeah. We mentioned the word conviction earlier. And I'm wondering if there's any practices or habits, even mindsets, that you feel help women show up with more courage and conviction. Like, is it presence? That's where it starts, or are there some other things that we could be doing to get into that state again of feeling courageous but not frantic, and having conviction but not being bombastic?
Oh, I love that, Susie. Well, yeah, I do. I believe that presence is deeply emotional and psychological. So if we look firstly at courage, for example, courage isn't fearlessness. It's the capacity to stay present with what's happening in our body. It's the courage when we see that big audience or something that's really daunting, or we don't know how we're going to pull it off. Instead of shutting down, I say the mind shuts down, the body goes to Brisbane. It's like the startled rabbit. So, if we can stay present, we stop being hijacked by the nerves and the self-doubt, and we can actually lead in the moment by using the breath, by using the new normal that we've practiced. So we go, oh, I'm disappearing. Stop, pause, breathe. It's okay, because we know that place. If we don't know that new place, if we don't know that confidence and that courage, if we haven't been there often enough, we're not going to get there when it matters. So the work is learning how to stay in ourselves when these gremlins show up. Yeah. And secondly, if we look at conviction, it grows when we're aligned to ourselves in our message, when we believe that what we're saying at a deeper level, then the body and the voice naturally follow. So that's why having that really clear intention, because what I love about this work is, it's mindsets. All what's happening inside is often, as we said, what prevents us being who we'd like to be. But in fact, anchoring flow and ease and rhythm in the body, in the breath, in the voice is one of the most powerful ways to shift mindset, and the fastest. Right. We often try to think our way out of self-doubt, but the body gives us a much better pathway.
Right, so, and quicker access probably too.
And quicker access. And so we can do it in real time. So, okay, we're losing it. Stop, breathe, and ground yourself. Use the techniques of the voice techniques to get your voice flowing when you're nervous. And do an embodied check-in to make sure that when you turn up, in whatever format it is, you're really there. Because then the inner critics don't run the show.
Yeah, because that way of being is bigger or more elevated, or I don't even think I'm finding the right word, but it's a stronger way of being than, the internal judge or that little voice, because it recognizes you for who you truly are.
Absolutely. And I love that, because women so often, I find, keep themselves in a smaller box than they need to. I had a client, and she was trying to be what she should be, polished, contained, professional, but it was costing her spontaneity and presence. And honestly, it took her quite a while of working with me to the point where she could give herself permission to be unshaken, to unshackle the shoulds, if you like, and describe the state that she calls relaxed professionalism. And it's transformed her work.
Yeah,
she says yes to so many big opportunities now because she can be in that bigger, expansive state rather than the small box because she's become familiar with it. So I don't think presence is a mindset hack. I think it's an embodied experience. And when women learn to come back into their bodies and their breath and their voice, then that courage and conviction stops being something they chase and becomes something that they access.
I'm excited. I'm excited to, and in a few minutes, I'll give people details of where they can find out more about the Presence Lab and some of the free resources that you make available and opportunities to work with you, Anne-Marie. And I know that you've helped many, many women within the Her Business community already. So I just want to say thank you publicly for that and allowing them to step into bigger ways of being. Because, I always say that success isn't what you do. It's really who you're being. And you are fueling them being who they truly are, which is bigger than any box, that they put themselves into.
Yes, thank you. It's my passion.
Now, the tagline of this show, Anne-Marie, is your business, your rules. And I'd love to know, what does this idea mean to you and how, if it were true, would it inform how you operate your business?
My business, my rules. For me, my business has always been a mirror to my life. So as my business evolves, it keeps asking me these questions like, so what really matters to me now? What no longer fits? What do I need to let go of or say no to? I think there are so many voices in the world telling us how we should be running our business, and I think there are more and more of them shouting at us at the moment. And sometimes I get swept along by them. But when I do, my body tells me pretty quickly I get tired or stressed or unwell, and that's my sign that I'm off track in some way. So in a way, I think my business is become like a truth serum, really. It shows me when I'm aligned and it shows me when I'm not. And things move so fast at the moment. I think, we're so often meant to, I say it, the idea of your business, your rules has really meant releasing borrowed models of success for me and designing a business that fits my energy, my voice and my values. Because the rules, they're changing so fast at the moment that presence keeps giving me permission to trust my instincts more, to say no more often, and to build from alignment rather than urgency. So I evolve, my work evolves, and ultimately my business works best when it sounds like me.
Right. And I really what you're saying is that there's so much noise out there, and we look to the left and our competitors doing this, and we look over there and the influencers saying we should do that. And we end up building these businesses that are not aligned. And you said that word, and that is, I think that's my word of the year, is alignment. It's like, I keep going, shed, yes to this, no to this, what feels more aligned, what feels good in my body. So thank you. And I've seen your business evolve over years as you fine-tuned who you want to work with and what the format is of what you want to deliver. And I want to say thank you so much for being my guest here on the show. And I want to close out by asking, even though I could have this conversation all day long because I think we share a lot of values, is there anything you'd love to leave us with?
Oh, yes. What I'd really love to leave you with is the takeaway that I'll speak to the audience here. You don't need fixing. You don't need to add more or become someone else. The work is about removing what pulls you out of alignment and learning how to inhabit yourself fully. Because when that happens, presence and confidence and impact stop being something that you try to manufacture. They become something you can access. That is when you're home.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful point to end on. Thank you again for being my guest. I adore you.
Thank you, Susie. It's a joy. I wish we had 4 hours. We could just keep on going.
We could just keep on going. Maybe there's a to be continued. Thank you. I absolutely love that conversation with Anne-Marie. I find it very relevant to what I do every day and what I see our members doing, because these skills aren't just applicable to those who step onto big stages or give keynote presentations. They affect every part of being a business owner. So whether you are presenting a proposal to a client, or you're presenting on a webinar, or you're inviting someone in person to buy your service from you, or whether you're recording a podcast or a YouTube video or appearing in someone else's, these skills matter. They also matter when you speak to your team, and anytime you talk about what you do with peers and market your business. So the presence that Anne-Marie talks about, it is a fundamental part of business success. How we show up, how we hold ourselves, how we talk about what we do and who we serve is just as important, if not more important, than the actual words we are saying. I actually think it's more important, because who we are being speaks louder than what we are saying. When we are present, when we are truly there and communicating, we connect with people, we engage them, we have them pause, they're more excited to hear from us. I know I took so much away from this chat with Anne-Marie, and I hope that you did too. And in the show notes, I've linked to her incredible programs, along with a freebie that she's offered you as a listener. So definitely check out her programs. I have worked with her personally, and I highly recommend that you look at what she has coming up. And you can also grab her freebie. It's her voice tips guide, and you'll find it at herbusiness.com/345. Now, in the guide, she's sharing really simple, powerful techniques that you can use every day to sound more confident, more impactful, speak with greater authority and ease. It's absolutely free, and it's at herbusiness.com/345. So definitely grab a copy of that and head on over to her website and check out her programs. Now, as I said before, Anne-Marie has been a part of the Her Business community for many, many years, and I've absolutely loved watching her grow and evolve her business. She's one of hundreds of women in our community all learning and growing together rather than in isolation, which is so important. And if you would like to join me and Anne-Marie and others inside of the community, you can apply for the Her Business Network at herbusinessnetwork.com. It's a very simple application process that just tells us more about your business and your goals so that we can make sure that we can support you any way we can. So herbusinessnetwork.com is where you learn more. And speaking of community, someone in our wider community is a woman called Danica Armitage. She listened to episode 336, which was called Reflect Now, Relax Later, How to End 2025 Strong and Step into 2026 with Intention. So that was an episode we did at the end of 2025. Now, Danica's business is really interesting. She has a business called Big Stories, Little Films, and she creates films, whether they are recording a loved one's story or your own story. She creates these, what she calls legacy films, that ensure that the big stories that matter most are preserved for generations to come. And so you can learn more about her at bigstorieslittlefilms.com.au. But she listened to that episode and she said, I love this episode. It was a great reminder to look back and be proud of how far we've come in a year, not always looking ahead for the next thing. And reflection is such an important part of the creation process. Before we look out into the future, it's great to know where we are. And so one of our processes that we work with our members on is this idea of reflecting before we envision, before we take action. So we find where we are right now, what's worked, what are we going to take moving forward, what are we going to let go of, and then we envision what the future is going to be like. It's what we call our reach process. It starts with reflect and envision, and then it moves on with other stages that I won't get into right now. But thank you so much for that review. We appreciate you listening. And that was episode 336, Reflect Now, Relax Later. I will put a link to that in show notes as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. Or you can just head on over to Instagram. You'll find us at Her Business and just direct message us. That would be awesome. And if you have ideas of episodes that you'd love to see in the future, guests you'd like us to have on, or topics you'd like us to cover, let us know. Once again, over at herbusiness.com/345, you will find a summary of today's episodes and links to other resources we've discussed. Thanks again to my guest, Anne-Marie Wilshire. If you are new to the show, hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening, and join us in the next episode for more inspiring stories and lessons from successful female entrepreneurs. See you next week right here on the Her Business podcast. Bye for now.